where I'm at, because I want to support families of determination, disabled people with additional needs, to financially plan for a more positive future.
Yeah.
I think that what we have to realize about what I'm trying to do is get them to think about unrealized costs. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of our clients, when they're thinking about education plans, when they're thinking about retirement plans, these are things that you already think about, right? Mm-hmm. So you have kids, you think about the cost of their education, you think where they're going to go to university, and everybody harbors a ambition to retire at some point. When you have a child of determination, a disabled child born to you, it can be very, very difficult to think positively about the future. Mm-hmm. In fact, most evidence that parents go through a grieving cycle.
Okay. Hello and welcome along to episode 6 of Financial Athletes. My name is Kieran McDermott, and today I'm really pleased to be joined by Louis Speight, who is a former GB wheelchair athlete and has now transitioned into working in the world of offshore wealth management. So Louis, great to have you along with us. Do you mind just going through your history and how you got all the way here to Dubai today?
Thank you for having me, first of all. It's a pleasure to be here. As for how I got to Dubai, I'm still not entirely sure how that process actually played out. At the beginning of time, I was born with spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy, which meant I started using a manual wheelchair at age 3. Mm-hmm. I went through the early part of my education in a special needs education environment, and then went to mainstream when I was I went to mainstream full time when I was 11, and I don't really know how it happened, but I ended up going to a mainstream school that actually had an interest in disability sport. So I started attending the National Junior Athletics Championships from age 11. Again, not quite sure how it happened, but I ended up being a national champion at age 11 as well. Don't ask me why. From there, when I was about 15, I turned round to my parents and said, "Mum, I want to become a wheelchair racer." Which is kind of the equivalent of saying I want to be a pro footballer when I grow up. But somehow I convinced them that it'd be a good idea, or at least I convinced them that I was serious about it. Mm-hmm. And I got my first racing wheelchair when I was around 15, 16. I competed a few seasons, just as we might say, at amateur level, but things really changed when I went to university because I got a sports scholarship from Leeds Met, now Leeds Beckett's mm-hmm. University, and I started training, professionally full time. And from there, I started getting reasonably fast. I set European records for the men's T33 classification for the 100, the 200, the 400, and the 800 meters. Although the 800 meters was by accident because I just did it as a way to fill time at a competition.
Hang on, so you're saying you got a European record just by doing a warm up?
Yeah, we didn't know.
Right.
And quite honestly, I was completely unprepared to do an 800 because I got past the 400 meter. I got to the end of the track mm-hmm. and then realised I had to keep going, which when you're a sprinter, it's like, ugh.
Yeah. Lactic acid flying around.
So from there, I was selected for the under 23 World Championships, and I set under 23 world records over in Dubai. That was the first time I was here. That was over in Sharjah. From there, my issue was that my classification was never actually in the Paralympics. So although I competed for Great Britain in Switzerland, France, Dubai, and various other places, I did miss out on going to London 2012. But I graduated from Leeds Beckett with a degree in sports science, and I then went on to. I was the inaugural winner of the Vice Chancellor's Enterprise Scholarship. So I set up my first business from being straight out of university, and that business focused on accessibility in health and social care. So I worked extensively in health and social care in various different roles for about 3 or 4 years. Got really bored of that, mainly because, I don't know, it's less about people and more about hospital beds.
Right.
And I'm more people focused. So I decided to do some. Obviously, I had my sports coaching qualification, so I started doing some sports coaching on the side.
That was more your interest at the time, I suppose.
No, it was just a change, just a change.
Yeah.
Like just something different. From there, I formed another business. I broke away from the business that I was working with my manager, and we formed a new business called Omnis CIC, and that went on to be, well, it's still runs in the UK, but it went on to be an award-winning social enterprise that operates mainly across West Yorkshire, and it works with special needs schools, community groups, and adult day centres / care homes. So we took that from 0 to over 100k in revenue and 20k profit within inside 3 years. Survived the pandemic, and it's still operating successfully in the UK. As for how I got to Dubai, I mean,
no one's ever quite sure.
No, I don't think. How do you end up here, right? So I don't know. The UK, it's been a place where it's been a place in a state of disrepair for many years. I think it says it all. We've had like 5 prime ministers in like the last
12 years.
Less than that. Is it 6 or something?
We've had
whatever,
yeah.
You know. But the reality is that I used to travel everywhere on trains. I spent 10 years, because I'm partially sighted as well as using a wheelchair. So I've always relied on public transport, but it's never been a problem, right?
Yeah.
You know, I could get everywhere I needed to do. It was a bit cold in winter, but you got used to it. But ever since the strikes kicked in, you know, I found myself not being able to get to work, making excuses to clients left, right, and centre. And there's only so many times you can say the train broke down before it becomes like saying the dog ate your homework, right? You know, it just got embarrassing. And there was just so many things where I just thought, oh my God, I need a change. I need a physical change, because it got so difficult to do business. It got so difficult to just do basic things like just get around, right? And that's not because I'm in a wheelchair. That was the same for absolutely everybody. I knew more and more people who were moving into home working just because they couldn't get anywhere. And it's like this big push to get people back to the office, but they can't get to the office, right?
Unless you live next to it.
Well, as we now do, but there we go. I walked to it this morning. Well, I rolled to it this morning. It was great. I loved it.
Beautiful morning.
Well, the temperature's dropped a little bit, hasn't it? So, and to be quite honest as well, I thought a lot about this job before I took it, and I thought how I wanted to do it, and I thought about the place I wanted to do it in, and this just felt like Dubai felt like the right place in the right moment. There's a strong agenda backed by the royal family to make this this place the most inclusive country on earth. Now, that's a huge claim, and they are still a long way from doing that. I think they would admit that themselves. But there is a clear and determined energy toward making that at least seem possible. And it's nice to be, my friend texted me the other day because he knows I'm out here, and he was like, how is it going? So we were talking, and I'm like, I'm really enjoying it, blah, blah, blah. And he said, the best thing for you is you're there at the start of something. He says, I've always turned up in whatever country I've worked in at the end of something. And it does feel like we're at the start of something, and it does feel like all the skills and experience that I've accrued, we can make a positive. It's something that we can positively contribute towards. And I think crucially, from what I've seen, the royal family seem genuinely behind the inclusion agenda, which is obviously critically important in this part of the world.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, and it's not just who's welcome or people of determination, as they call it here. You've also seen strides towards religion. They built a synagogue in Abu Dhabi, for example, and they've got the area where all religions are welcome, which is just making a big claim to the rest of the world that that's their intent, and that's how they're going to do things, where everyone really is welcome. So since coming here, when you set out to work in wealth management in the UAE, what was the sort of thinking behind that?
Well, as we just previously alluded to, I think that so the agenda, the overall agenda for the region, made me feel like this was a place that I could work. And also the other thing about the wealth agenda here is, if we look at like what Devere does, Devere does education planning, retirement planning. We're really about helping our clients positively plan for the future, right? Or at least think about it. I think the difference between where I'm at, because I want to support families of determination, disabled people with additional needs, to financially plan for a more positive future. Yeah, I think that what we have to realize about what I'm trying to do is get them to think about unrealized costs. Because a lot of our clients, when they're thinking about education plans, when they're thinking about retirement plans, these are things that you already think about, right? So you have kids, you think about the cost of their education, you think where they're going to go to university, and everybody harbors a ambition to retire at some point. You know, these people, I just want to keep working. No. But when you have a child of determination, a disabled child born to you, it can be very, very difficult to think positively about the future. Mm-hmm. In fact, most evidence that parents go through a grieving cycle.
Okay.
Because you don't think, when the child is born, you don't think about their childhood. You think about what they might become. You think about them getting married and having children of their own and having the best life, and they might be, because when an able-bodied child is born, the best thing about that is they can be anything. They could be an artist, they could be a musician, they could be a sports person, they could be president, prime minister, you name it. So when you find out your child has a lifelong condition, mm-hmm. suddenly it's none of that no longer seems possible. So my mother always said to me that she really wished that she could have met somebody like me when I was younger, because that would have given her a positive impression of what I could,
That's beautiful.
What I could have possibly been. So but the issue is, from a financial planning point of view, a wealth management point of view, mm-hmm. is that you're facing unrealized costs. Mm-hmm. These are costs that you don't know, you don't think about, and you don't know where to start. So like the wheelchair that I'm sat in currently mm-hmm. is around £5,000. Now, the way I use it, active lifestyle, it goes on planes, it goes in the backs of cars, all the rest of it, mm-hmm. it's only going to last about 5 years. And if the Uber drivers keep not shutting the boot properly and she keeps falling out the back of them, it might last a bit less time than that. So you need to be aware of these costs, because actually they're going to come at you quickly. Mm-hmm. And hilariously, people over here say, oh, well, it'll be different in the UK because the UK just pays for this, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they don't. They pay for some of it. But if you're lucky, they'll give you 1,200 sterling and say, actually, that's to cover the cost of the chair and the maintenance for 5 years.
But how much is a chair? It's not...
5,000 sterling, and then add your maintenance cost for 5 years on that.
So there's a gap there of about 3,800 plus maintenance.
Well, if you factor in that a good pair of tyres will set you about 80 sterling. Mm-hmm. I've had, in fact, just today, a memory popped up on Facebook where some years ago my front wheel actually fell off.
Right.
It's just like, and you can get worldwide mobility cover. Mm-hmm. That means wherever you are, you can get an emergency rescue team out to you.
Oh, the AA.
Yeah, but worldwide.
Right.
Worldwide. And
how far does that stretch? Like, if you call them up and you're in the Antarctic.
Well, personally, I just hope that it never comes to that.
Yeah.
But they do give you the option of whether you need a pickup truck or an ambulance, depending on what's happened to you.
What about a helicopter? You might need that.
Well, I've known people who've been helicopter rescued, definitely. But the reality is that particularly here in the UAE, mm-hmm. right? Everybody has some level of disposable cash. Mm-hmm. That's one of the benefits of living here. And if for our clients, whoever they are, it's about us helping them plan and put things in place that disposable cash, either grows or meets a need. Mm-hmm. So all what we need to do is we need to make sure for people of determination, for disabled families, for disabled adults, children, that they're applying that same model toward their like I say, I call them unrealised costs. And the nice thing for me about this career change is actually I've always been people focused. Whatever I've done, if I've been in health and social care, if I've been working in sport and community, it's always been about trying to help people. And the nice thing about this job is literally I get to sit with people, because everybody thinks what we do is like we're like coming at people fiercely, and that can be the case in Dubai, especially in some sectors. But like, I just sit with people, I have a chat with them, and I'm able to do that because if I have 15 good chats with people, 2 of which might become clients and do some business with me, but I get to impart some information and be that older role model for them to the 13 other families. And I only need, the benefits of the job mean that I only need a relatively small number of clients relative to the amount of people that I can help and support. So it feels ludicrous in a lot of ways, because when you come from the UK, and one of the biggest barriers, even when you're working in the third sector, is I can do this for you, but you're going to have to pay for it. And nobody's got any money to pay, because there's less and less funding available. There's less and less local government funding, but there's less and less coming from the charities and foundations, because guess what? Rising interest rates means that the yield on their investment portfolios is less. And I was studying this stuff for months, even before the pivot change, my sort of career change. And I'm telling people this, and I'm like, what's interest rates got to do with it? And I'm like, interest rates affect everything. Where do you think the money's coming from for these foundations and trusts? They make investments and then they distribute the yields. That's how it goes.
Yeah. So let's just talk through then the main area that you're looking to work with people on here, because you touched upon unrealised costs of disability, and when we spoke last time, you mentioned that there's the riddle of the Sphinx. I think
yeah. So when I've done a lot of disability awareness training with mainly with school children over the years, and I always start, because I was always taught, never make your PowerPoints too busy. So I'm always like, I put like a question on a slide or something like that. So I start with a question that says, how many people do you think in the world are disabled? How many people do you think are people of determination, or whatever it is? And they go, and then they'll say, if you've got some smart aleck in the audience, because you may be working with adults rather than children, whatever, they'll go, I don't know. But there's 15.6 million disabled people currently registered in the UK, and there's 11.6 million people registered as carers.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to the next slide, and that'll be the Sphinx. And the riddle of the Sphinx is really simple. Everybody knows it. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening? The answer is man. And if man has to walk, he walks on 3 legs in the evening because he's carrying a stick.
So 4 as a baby, 2 as...
4 as a baby, 2 as an adult, and 2 in his prime. And you could go spring, summer, winter, whatever,
And the point of this is that
everybody's disabled at some point
becomes disabled.
And the only thing that changes, because it's not about disability as a theoretical construct, is about the barriers that society puts up against people whose needs are not being met. So we all develop additional needs over time. It's just the only thing that changes is the point. So my point of additional need was at birth. But but you know, I come from a sporting background as well, and this is obviously about, you know, it's a financial athletes podcast. So let's just talk about, for example, you know, unless you're at the top of your respective field as a sportsman or woman, you're going to probably have a second career in some way, shape or form.
Mm-hmm.
And your professional career is probably going to be really short.
Right.
And it could be much shorter than you probably realise. Why? Due to injury. And why? Because your needs change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a discrete problem. People always sort of say, "Oh, you're catering to a niche in the market." I'm like, no, I'm catering to everybody. You know, because athletes, professional athletes, are notoriously bad at financial planning, and equally, a lot of them.
I think everyone got a flavour of that from the recent Beckham documentary. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it. That just
I've not watched it yet, actually.
And he spoke about how, well, Gary Neville's talking about David Beckham, and he's saying, you know, when me and Phil were playing for Man United, we were saving away, scribbling money away for our pension each month. David Beckham, he would go out every week, and before he'd got his next paycheck, he spent every penny he had, and he'd buy all the designer clothes. And David Beckham really changed the mindset of footballers in that sense, and then other athletes on top of that. Whereas whereby they were forgetting about the short nature of their career, or not giving any credit to it, spending all their money and then getting themselves into a real financial pickle by the time they're sort of 33, 34.
Well, I mean, there's been so many examples. I mean, look at Craig Bellamy recently. He came out and said he was basically bankrupt, and you know, blamed it on his advisors, clearly, because it's all our fault, isn't it, really?
Well, who knows?
Well, you can.
It might have been. Who knows?
You can tell a client no, but that doesn't mean that you. Sorry, you can tell a client it's a bad idea, but that doesn't necessarily stop them from doing it, does it? But the you know, athletes, it's really interesting because, you know, we had, you know, I sat when I was much younger. We sat in the financial planning meetings. You go from the drugs testing seminar to the financial planning sort of seminar, you know, in camp or whatever, and they try and teach you about this stuff. But realistically, you're just thinking about your career. And despite what everybody says, you're also thinking, hang on a minute, I'm going to be at the top of the tree here, so that means I'm going to earn loads in endorsements, come what may. So I'll be absolutely fine. I don't need to plan. But realistically, what we're finding with the concussion scandal and the, you know, the recent spate of you know, head injuries, again, additional change in needs, is that people are going to have, you know, potentially massive amounts of unrealized costs in their post-sport retirement, because you know, that, for want of a better phrase, that's the price you pay for being at elite level.
Well, it's sacrifice, isn't it? And athletes always talk about sacrifice in the immediacy of when they're training. You know, there was always, I didn't go out to the parties, I didn't have much of a social life, I was up every morning.
That was a lie, usually, because as we actually know, some people did that, but there's a vast majority, especially those who actually get to the top, who go
and enjoy themselves.
Who do enjoy themselves extensively as well, and that leads you to believe that, again, they need proper, prudent financial planning, a la what you've just said about David Beckham. But I can think of numerous different examples of people that I've actually had, you know, conversations with where the thing is the same. And if you know, the old adage, what goes on tour stays on tour, is because, I mean, realistically, people don't. What people also don't pay much attention to, but it's true, is that when you go into the Olympic or Paralympic village, you get goodie bags,
full of condoms.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard
absolutely full of condoms. And why?
This.
Because everybody's sleeping with each other.
Yeah.
And why would they not? They're
prime athletes. Yeah.
They're prime athletes. They're juiced and they're like rats in a box, just climbing all over each other.
Yeah. I heard about the order that the Durex get from the Olympic Committee.
If you're on the inside, everybody's sleeping with everybody else.
There you go. I mean,
the revelations never stop.
So just let's move away from that slightly, as much as it could be a fun direction for the conversation to go to. For people then that aren't perhaps aware of the additional costs that, as you say, are somewhat inevitable for everyone, what are the ways in which they can plan for that in future?
Well, it really kind of depends, right? Because let's be honest, we've all got friends and family, and when you're in this job, they kind of talk to you about, oh, is it risky? Is it this? Is it that? Is it the other? And actually, like, markets go up and down, up and down. But actually, realistically, let's be fair about this. Everything's stays relatively stable. So if you're planning for the long term, you're pretty much more or less gonna get out what you put in. So if you, for example,
tell that to Craig Bellamy.
Well, one can't speak to how he was advised badly, but generally,
yeah, markets bounce around in an upward trajectory.
But if you look at our funds, 7% over for the last 14 years, and that includes the pandemic period. So, realistically, what we offer is pretty. You could go into the whole Island Man sort of thing, but it is just. I think it is literally just this idea of just putting a little away each month that's affordable. And then suddenly, it's in 5-10 years, you've got a pot of money that you can then draw upon. I mean, because I listened to a podcast with Anthony Joshua, and he spoke quite eloquently about this, because he was like, I'm a 5% guy. He's a 5% guy. He's got his money's invested, and all he does is draw down the 5% interest that he's earning a year. Mm-hmm. Now, he's got that much money that his 5%...
So not as luxury to be able to do that.
That his 5% is quite
substantial.
Quite substantial, but even so,
you can very easily not do that. If you look at Tyson Fury, for example, I think
he gives most of it away, doesn't he? But the issue, I think the issue is the economies of scale, right? You can still draw down that 5%, and that can pay for a medical treatment that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. Mm-hmm. It can pay for the wheelchair that you wouldn't otherwise be able to afford, and that's just can be done by putting a little away a month to just cover that cost. So instead of doing a David Beckham, you do a Gary Neville, and you just say, all right, I'm going to put 500 away a month. And that is particularly the case out here in the UAE, because you're not getting taxed, so you're going to have disposable income.
Yeah.
So you've got two choices. You can either spend it, or you can put it in jail and forget about it.
You need to be disciplined.
No, just put it in jail. It's the best way. If you do anything else but put it in jail out here, you'll find some way to spend it.
Brilliant, Louis. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's been awesome to get your insight on a variety of different topics that we've covered. And if anyone is interested in having a chat with Louis about various areas, including planning for unrealised costs in the future, putting money away in a non-tax environment, or just generally planning for life's financial eventualities.
Well, even just to quickly add on to that, as I say, if if you have recently had a profound change in circumstances, let's say, you've had a child born with a lifelong condition, or you yourself have experienced a profound change in your circumstances, come talk to me. It might not be financial related, but I might be able to give you some advice and some guidance in another way.
Well, as your mum said, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what.
With someone like you when she was much younger.
Wise woman. She also says that the most important thing in life is to be chatty and interested in people. That's how she stayed in business for 35 years as a hairdresser. So it's all about chatty and interested in people.
That's it. Brilliant, Louis. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, Kieran. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.